So the 25th James Bond movie, the 5th one starring Daniel Craig, and the first one where they really did play with the formula quite a bit, but did it pay off in No Time to Die? Let's discuss. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're having a brilliant day. So in this video I'm really pleased to say, after all of the delays due to the COVID pandemic, we are finally able to review James Bond No Time to Die. And just like everybody else in the entire world, I was really excited to watch this movie, incredibly highly anticipated and really eagerly awaiting it to finally come out in cinemas. And I have to say, I was a little bit disappointed by this movie. I mean, it feels like an okay MI6 spy espionage type film, but it really doesn't feel as brilliant as the legacy of the James Bond movies, and I'm going to be breaking down exactly why I think that in this movie review. So from a storyline point of view, this movie actually starts off really well as we jump into the past and we explore what happened when the Madeleine Swann character was a lot younger in a bit of a horror sequence where we see a bit of an icy setting, very Riverdale season 1 inspired. We then jump back into the present day where we catch up with Madeleine and James Bond and they are really enjoying themselves in the south of France. However, this then gets thwarted when a group of Spectre assassins are really hunting them and are hot on their trail. The film then goes a lot deeper into the Spectre organization. It also has a bit of an end of the world plot involving nanobots and also has plenty of twists and turns along the way as well. Now from a positives point of view, this movie definitely has constant action. It feels like there's a new action sequence taking place every 15 minutes, so you'll definitely be on the edge of your seat, and each one of those definitely feels very spectacle based, which is really cool. Also, you really don't know who on earth you can trust. All of the different characters are potentially going to stab the James Bond character in the back, so you really also need to be on the edge of your seat to be able to work out and to see who you can trust and who you can't trust. I also think it's really great from a female empowerment point of view, as all of the women in this movie definitely step it up a little bit in terms of not just being Bond girls in the traditional sense, but actually definitely being able to stand on their own and really aiding and helping the James Bond character quite a lot, which is really great to see. Speaking of James Bond, I think this movie is a really great final tribute and final outing for the Daniel Craig actor, who has obviously given a lot of his time and a lot of his service to this character, which is really great, as it really is a brilliant ending for this character. And also they have all of the staples in this movie that definitely make a James Bond movie a James Bond movie. For example, the quotable lines, shaken not stirred, and they also borrow a lot of lines from the previous James Bond movies. It's also really great to see how on earth the James Bond character is going to get out of some truly deadly situations where it really does look as if he's going to lose his life, and you really do fear for this. But seeing how on earth he does this in a really slick way is what is really cool. However, from a negatives point of view, I have to say the end of the world plot involving all the poison and the nanobots just wasn't as gripping as it should have been. I just feel like as an audience member, I just wasn't being connected to the wider storyline, which was really disappointing. I also think that the main lead villain was just really weak. I can see what they were trying to do in terms of trying to make him a bit more of a psychological threat, and obviously all of the poison and the nanobots are really deadly, but I just feel like as a threat to James Bond, I definitely feel like they could have picked a much better villain for Daniel Craig's final outing. Also, I feel like all of the other James Bond standalone entries just work so much better when they are their own little contained storyline. However, with the Daniel Craig suite of films, obviously they wanted to have a continuous storyline running across all of the 5 films, but I just feel like this really does take away from the enjoyment of a James Bond movie, and I just feel like all of the ones prior to Daniel Craig were just so much better when they were just one-off storylines. Of course, they did have the odd thing that did continue from film to film, but I just feel like the Daniel Craig era for me just doesn't work as well as the previous movies have done. And I also just feel overall from a storyline point of view, this movie definitely did feel like style over substance. So from a cast and characters point of view, I feel like No Time to Die for the most part has got a decent cast and some great characters, so let's go through them one by one. So first up, of course, we have Daniel Craig returning as the titular character of James Bond, and of course this is his final outing. I also really like the narrative that they gave James Bond in this movie, as of course he's now retired from the 007 position, so he's reluctantly returning to try to solve this mission which I think is really interesting from a narrative point of view. However, from a performance point of view, I feel like Daniel Craig does do a decent job. However, I do feel like his other movies, he just does a lot better job in them. However, it does really feel like James Bond's movie, and I think it's a really, really nice farewell, especially in the final act of this movie, for Daniel Craig's stint as the James Bond actor. Next up we have Rami Malek, who is playing the main villain in this movie as the Safin character. And I have to say, I was just really unimpressed by this villain. I feel like James Bond movie villains should be really, really iconic, and I feel like this character just really kind of let the film down. I mean, you can see that they were giving him a bit of purpose, and so that you can somewhat try to understand where he's coming from. And they were trying so hard to make him a real true adversary to the James Bond character. However, I just feel like it just did not work at all. I feel like they were trying to somewhat mirror the Batman and the Joker relationship, but it just really, really did not work in this movie at all. I mean, speaking of Batman mythology, I feel like this character, if anything, felt like a bit of a Poison Ivy assistant, but I just feel like he wasn't really working in this movie, and if anything, kind of detracted from it. Next up we have Lisa-Dorah, who is returning from Spectre, and this time she is returning as the Madeleine Swann character. I thought she was alright. I think she played the love interest character really, really well. You are somewhat conflicted as an audience member as to whether or not you can trust this character, so I feel like she was delivering that part really, really well. And you can also see the love interest and the chemistry between these two characters, but other than that, I didn't feel like she had that much depth. And because she had the opening sequence in this movie, which like I said was really, really great, I just feel like they could have pushed it a lot more with this character. Next up we have Lashana Lynch, who is now James Bond's replacement as the new 007. So already I was absolutely loving the setting that they had, which was two 007 agents, and the previous 007 and the new 007 coming face to face I thought was really, really great. It somewhat mirrored the scenes between Dick Grayson and Jason Todd from the Titans live action series, and so it was really, really cool to see it happening here. And they had both the rival scenes between these two characters, both wanting to try to outdo one another, as well as them two working together as partners. And Lashana Lynch's Naomie character was also really respectful of James Bond's experience, which I think was really, really great. Next up we have Ana de Armas, who I think was absolutely wicked in this movie. She's another female character in this movie who can really hold her own, as she is another assassin character that this time is working with James Bond, and she is really helpful to him. If anything, I would have liked to have seen more from this character, as from a performance point of view, she did such a good job, and also reminded everyone that Daniel Craig and Ana de Armas worked so well together, like they did do in Knives Out as well. Next up we have Naomie Harris, who is returning as the Moneypenny character. I feel like she was fine. She didn't have that much to do in this movie, but for the scenes that she was in, she did deliver it really, really well. I feel like there will always be the shadow of Judi Dench always hovering over this character, but you know, that being said, I feel like Naomie Harris did do a good job with the material she was given. Next up we have Ben Whishaw, who is also returning as the Q character. I feel like he delivered all of his lines really, really well. He definitely was bringing the comedy value to this movie, but that being said, I do feel like they could have pushed this character a little bit more as well, and given Ben Whishaw a bit more to do as well. Next up we have Jeffrey Wright, who is finally returning as the Felix character, who has been absent for the last two James Bond movies. And I feel like it was really nice to have a returning character interacting with James Bond to really bring that past and heritage for these two characters. And then finally we have Ralph Fiennes, who is also back as M. He was really, really great as this character. You're not sure whether you can trust him or not, and I feel like his conflict scenes between him and James Bond were really, really great. And so overall, from a character's point of view, I feel like they had decent actors in this movie, but they definitely could have pushed their characters a lot further. So from a visuals point of view, No Time to Die definitely does deliver. I feel like for all James Bond hardcore fans, you'll have all of the elements that you'll want to enjoy. So for example, beautiful locations that this character goes to across the world, which looks really, really cool. Plenty of action sequences. Like I said, there's one pretty much every 15 minutes, and all of those scenes are really, really cool. Some of them you're really not sure how on earth James Bond is going to get out of it, which is really, really cool. And of course, they have a bit of a secret island base, which the James Bond character and his crew are trying to infiltrate. And some of those moments actually really do feel like a bit of a video game. So you can really see it translating into a video game one day, which would be really, really cool. But from a visuals point of view, I do feel like other installments from the James Bond franchise have pushed all of those aspects a lot further. You know, from a cinematography point of view, this is the latest James Bond movie, and so some of the sequences are really, really cool, especially at the end of this movie, where James Bond is trying to kill all of the characters on this island and beat all of them up. And so from a spectacle point of view, no pun intended, this movie is actually looking really, really great. So from a comparison point of view, like I said, I don't feel like this is the strongest James Bond movie, let alone the strongest Daniel Craig movie. From a Daniel Craig point of view, I feel like Skyfall and of course Casino Royale are so much better and so much stronger than No Time to Die. And also in terms of the back catalogue of James Bond movies, I feel like there's so many better ones than No Time to Die. For example, Tomorrow Never Dies, Die Another Day, and also The World Is Not Enough. So many better other movies. And on that point, I just feel like the standalone entries just work so much better as enjoyable James Bond movies, as you just want to digest a bit of a storyline that is new and innovative and very different to anything that you've seen before. I do appreciate what they were trying to do with the Daniel Craig era of movies, for example, having one continuous storyline being threaded across all of them, but I just feel like it hasn't worked as well as other movies have been. So overall, with No Time to Die, I really wanted to be completely blown away by this movie. And it did have some really cool elements in this movie. For example, some of the visuals did look really, really cool. It was a really great final tribute and send-off for the Daniel Craig actor. The start was really, really great. The ending was pretty decent. However, I did feel like it went on for way too long, and I just couldn't get behind the plot and some of the characters. And like I said, I just really wanted to be engaged. I really wanted to be on the edge of my seat. I really wanted it to be a lot more gripping than it was, but unfortunately it wasn't. And I just feel like there are so many better other spy movies and much stronger other James Bond movies, which means overall, from a score perspective, I'm going to give No Time to Die a 4.5 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.